As a parent or parents, it is your job, your duty, your obligation to train up your child, raise your child, train that child up to the way they're supposed to go. It is the parents, the mother and father, that are responsible for their children. It is not the government. It is not the education system. It is not the public city school system. It is not their teacher, their principal, their superintendents. It is the parents' responsibility for their children, the mother and the father. The black people who are of Generation X, the black people who are born in the 60s and 70s, our parents as millennials and Gen Z, our parents that were born, parents and grandparents who were born in Gen X, 60s and 70s, they are responsible for all the dysfunction that's going on in the black community today in America. Think about it. Gen X introduced hip hop to us, which is beautiful. Now, let me also preface this before everybody jump down my throat. Gen X is a beautiful, beautiful generation. My mom and father are Gen X. They were born in the late 60s, early 70s. Again, it was beautiful people. We had Tupac, again, all the rappers, all the beautiful black people who were born in the 60s and 70s. They actually introduced to us hip hop. They gave us a lot of culture, the style, the swag, the things that we say today, the way that we act, the food. It's just like, it's so much rich culture, African American culture that came from Gen X. Okay, I can't take that from y'all. But there are some issues with y'all. Gen X introduced hip hop culture, which was fine until it became about gangster rap music, killing other black people, and the disrespect and harm and just straight up violence and cruelty towards black women. Hip hop used to have actual positive messages. It would actually be rhythm and poetry. That's what rap music stands for. Rap music, rhythm and poetry, RAP. But then that rhythm and poetry, they started talking about, things that not only was going on in their neighborhoods, but they started to encourage violence and antisocial behaviors, specifically black men. Again, black men from Gen X, they're the ones who decided that it was cool to start gangster rap music. They're the ones who decided it would be hip and funny to disrespect black women, talking about, having sex with us, even in a way promoting rape culture in the music. Gen X are the ones who started the whole pimp and hoe culture, how to pimp women out, how to be a player, to never commit to any woman. Why would you get married, young man? You need to sow your wild oats as long as you can. Get a bunch of women, a bunch of black women at your disposal, have them as keep a stable, pretty much a stable of hoes or women, black women in particular, and just have sex with them. Don't respect them. Don't protect them. They get pregnant. Oh, well, you don't have to marry them. You don't have to be there for that woman, that black woman, or your black children that you produce with that woman. Again, she's just a hoe and a bitch anyway. So, oh well, fuck them, leave them. She gets pregnant. Give her $200 in child support. Move on to the next. Gen X black people introduced gang culture. The Bloods and Crips, again, it started off as a good movement. I did my research. So, as what I've researched in the, I believe the 60s, 70s, and 80s in California, the state of California, the Bloods and Crips was actually, it was a gang, but it was actually a neighborhood gang to protect black women and black children. They actually started a lot of programs to actually allow black children who were poverty or impoverished households, and they would actually provide free meals, free breakfast items to black children in several Southern California neighborhoods, specifically the greater Los Angeles area. So yes, the gangs that we see today, the Bloods and Crips, who are just killing each other over something as silly as freaking colors, it did start off as black men did start it off as a way to protect black women and children. But look at what we have today. Now let's talk about the drugs. Again, Gen X. Black men, you're supposed to be the leaders of the community. Black men who were born in the 60s and 70s, they introduced to us crack. The crack epidemic that hit America very, very hard. It hit us very harshly. To this day, the term crack babies, people want to be, funny and say, oh, you're a crack baby. I see it, I'm going to be real, not only in my family, but just in general. A lot of these children who are antisocial, they have mental issues. They're, addicts. They just have strange behavior. Ask them how many of their mothers, their grandmothers, their aunts, whatever, did crack while they were either pregnant with them. They had them around crack when they were infants, toddlers, small children, adolescents. Ask them. We still see the effects of the crack epidemic today in millennials and Gen Z children. Gun violence. Again, Gen X made it cool through hip hop to talk about killing and slaying other black men for whatever reason. They talk about killing each other for being on each other's blocks, even though they don't own the block. Black men have not built anything. Again, in the African American culture, again, black men had several decades and times and opportunity to actually build something. But I love Martin Luther King, but may he rest in peace. I respect him and honor him. But again, instead of fighting so much for integration, we should have fought. Black men should have took the leadership role and fought for black men actually building their own. Of course, I know about Tulsa. I know about, Black Wall Street, the massacres, the fires, and everything, and such as this. But just because someone is to tear down what you've created, what you built, that is no excuse to just say, you know what, forget it, I give up, and not provide for yourself as men and your women and children. Period. Let's talk about single parent households. We can blame feminism. We can blame the freaking government cheese. They're saying, oh, black women, they chose the government over black. That makes no sense. What woman in her right mind would kick out a fine, responsible, loving husband or man in her family, the father of her children, over $600 a month in food stamps for 5-6 kids? It doesn't make any logical sense. Let's stop blaming that. Listen, I'm going to tell you, okay, listen, I did my research. In the 60s, the 1960s, black men were being drafted to the Vietnam War, okay? A lot of them wanted to dodge the war, but for whatever reason, you had to go. You were a young male, fighting age, you go into the war. They came back. Some of them that came back who survived, they were all screwed up in the mind mentally. They had a lot of post-traumatic stress. They turned to drugs. They turned to, again, the crack. It wasn't that big yet, but cocaine and heroin literally disseminated. It was starting to just destroy the black community in the 60s, okay? So you have a lot of black men who come back from the war. They're on drugs now. And a lot of them started leaving their families because they were strung out. Again, we can blame it on the drugs. I mean, we can blame it on drugs or the government or, oh, these poor men that came back from war and they're tormented. But that's no excuse as a man. You must be strong. You must marry the woman that you impregnated and take care of your children. You're not supposed to turn to drugs. How can we leave out crime and the high incarceration rates? Again, Gen X men, Gen X black men in particular, but black women too. A lot of us, black women are more likely to be locked up in comparison to white women. But again, like a lot of these behaviors, I'm sorry, we got to put the blame where it lies. Black men, again, the leaders of our community, they have introduced the gangs, the poverty, the violence, the gun violence, just all these dysfunctions. And the crime high incarceration rate was no different. And the black men that were born in the 60s and 70s, again, they made it a culture where it's cool to, again, not pay child support, impregnate a bunch of black women, start gang banging. Used to be joining a gang to protect black women and children. Now you are being predatory towards black women and children. You're recruiting little 12-year-old, 11-year-old black boys. You're raping and molesting young black girls, leaving them pregnant, defenseless, knowing they don't even have a father to defend them and protect them from men like you. And like we see that the crime and the statistics, the gun violence, the drugs, the drug trafficking, the drug dealers, everything has just started to compound upon itself, and black men started to go to prison at a much, much higher and faster rate than their white male counterparts in America. And you see this, again, like high incarceration. When you have a father that's locked up or he's in and out of jail, in and out of the penitentiary system, how can that child get that fatherly love, that wisdom, that guidance from their father when their father is in a freaking cage? But again, we don't talk about these things. Like black men, it's like, I think right now in America, it's starting to dwindle down, but it's still too high. You got a lot of black men who just can't stay out of jail or prison. And it's like, dude, you have children that need you, that you need to guide, protect, raise, and financially support. But you're locked up in a cage. I know what y'all thinking. Oh, Geneva, you have mommy and daddy issues. Who doesn't? I don't agree with the way that my mother and father raised me, and I've confronted them about it. Yes, I've healed. I went to therapy. I did the work. But even to this day, like the way that I was raised, I didn't agree with it then. I don't agree with it now. I remember being 5 years old, and I used to look at them like, what the fuck is wrong with them? And they're not even that bad. They're people who make mistakes, but the mistakes that you make as a parent, some of it is just not. It's no excuse. I can't make excuses for them. Like y'all knew better. Y'all were grown enough to have me. Y'all should have known to get y'all shit together pretty much if you want to bring children to the world. And I know I'm not the only one. It's a lot of black millennials and black Gen Zs. Of course, other white people. So again, I'm not white. I'm black. I'm talking about black people's issues. There's a lot of black millennials and black Gen Z children or adults now who have mommy and daddy issues because our parents from the Gen X generation, our parents and grandparents have completely passed down to us nothing but dysfunction and toxicity. We don't know what a loving marriage or household or relationship looks like. Why? Because we grew up seeing our black fathers and black grandfathers who are of Gen X either beat our mothers, impregnate our mothers and leave, come by in any other time whatever they wanted to, but they weren't consistent fathers. They turned to drugs. They were in and out of jail. They were locked up, like I said, high crime and incarceration rates. They had no respect for women. They literally they passed down the disrespect and that pimp hoe culture down to the younger black men. Gen X black men told millennials and Gen Z black men to not respect black women, don't protect black women, don't love, admire, adore, or just cherish black women how women should be treated. But just, hey, fuck them, leave them, they get pregnant, oh well. So we just see this pattern of dysfunction that just keeps going it kept getting passed down over and over again because of the Gen X Black people generation. There is hope. People of my generation, as millennials and Gen Z Black people, we are realizing that we have a lot of trauma and that the way we were raised is not normal. The behaviors that Gen X Black people have made normal, we don't want to perpetuate that to our children. I'm seeing more Black women say no wedding, no womb. I'm one of them. I'm not having children. I don't even want children. I will not get pregnant by a man who is not my husband. Period. That's the period, dot, point blank, period. It's not happening. Why? Because we see what happens all around us. You have Black people who are millennials and Gen Z who say, like, you know what? We're giving up drugs and alcohol. A lot of us don't even drink alcohol no more. Why? Because a lot of that alcoholism is genetic. It's a genetic component to it. And we see how our mothers, our fathers, our grandparents, our aunts and uncles, our cousins, our older cousins, how alcohol completely just deteriorated their lives and how it just completely robbed them of their future. And we don't want that for ourselves or our children. A lot of us young millennials and Gen Zers, we're going to therapy. Again, we're going through the healing process. We're actually trying to be healed from all the trauma, the drama, the stress, the dysfunction, the complete, utter dysfunction. I mean, when I think about it now, my childhood was so dysfunctional, it didn't make no sense. But it's the norm in Black society today, and it's sickening. But again, we're going to therapy. We're trying to work things out, and we're actually trying to be better for the next generation. We're actually trying to correct all these wrongs. We're trying to right all the wrongs that the Gen X Black people bestowed upon us. Gen X Black people, you let us down.